a time there was a little boy called Silly Billy. Silly Billy was on a mission. Not a boring grown-up mission like tidy your room or don't lick the window. No, this was a proper explorer's quest. He had Mum's floppy sun hat pulled low over his ears, Granddad's magnifying glass swinging from a shoelace around his neck, and a backpack stuffed with essentials, 1 squash jam sandwich, 2 raisins, possibly ancient, and a spoon, just in case he found buried treasure. The garden was quiet. Suspiciously quiet. Even Sulky the cat, who usually patrolled the windowsill like a grumpy queen, was curled up in a sunbeam, twitching one ear and pretending not to care. Billy tiptoed past the flower pots, crouched behind the compost bin, and peered through the grass. He was hunting for something amazing. So far, he discovered a wiggly worm named Kevin. A pebble shaped like a potato. And Mum's missing slipper, which he decided not to mention. He scribbled notes in his explorer's log, a cereal box with crayon scribbles, and was just about to investigate a suspicious patch of mud when, cock-a-doodle-doo. Billy jumped so high he nearly landed in the birdbath. The noise echoed across the garden like someone had dropped a trumpet into a blender. Sulky opened one eye, gave Billy a look that said really, and went back to sleep. Billy froze. He turned slowly, magnifying glass raised like a shield. There, perched on the top of the garden fence, was a creature unlike anything Billy had ever seen. It looked like a chicken who'd swallowed a disco ball. Feathers flared in every direction, reds, golds, and a suspicious amount of fluff. Its chest was puffed out like it was preparing for battle, and its eyes sparkled with mischief. Billy blinked. The creature blinked back. Then it spoke. "I'm Jock," it said, in a voice that sounded like it had swallowed a megaphone. "Ruler of the radishes. Captain of the compost. King of the coop." Billy stared. "You're a chicken." "I'm a cockerel," said Jock, hopping down with a dramatic flap. "And I'm in charge." "In charge of what?" "Everything," said Jock. "Especially the biscuits." Billy wasn't sure what to say. He'd met worms, slugs, and once a frog who'd stolen his sock, but never a talking bird with a biscuit obsession. Jock strutted in a circle, inspecting Billy's backpack. "You look like trouble," he said approvingly. Billy grinned. "You sound like fun." Jock fluffed his feathers. "I'm hilarious. Watch this." And just like that, the adventure began. Jock hopped down from the fence with a dramatic flap, landing squarely in a patch of daisies and flattening them like a feathery pancake. Billy stared. He'd seen birds before, robins, pigeons, even a seagull that stole his ice cream once, but none of them had introduced themselves like royalty. "You're really a cockerel?" Billy asked, edging closer. Jock fluffed his chest. "The finest in the land. Loudest crow, shiniest feathers, best biscuit radar in the northern hemisphere." Billy blinked. "You have a biscuit radar?" "Of course," said Jock. "I can detect a custard cream from 50 paces. Chocolate digestives make my tail twitch." Billy giggled. "You're weird." "I prefer magnificent," said Jock, inspecting his reflection in a puddle. "Also, I'm very busy. I've got a schedule." Billy sat cross-legged in the grass. "Doing what?" "Important things," said Jock. "Strutting, pecking, looking mysterious, occasionally alarming the postman." Billy pulled a jam sandwich from his backpack and offered it. Jock sniffed it, pecked it once, then tilted his head. "Acceptable," he declared. "You may proceed." Billy took a bite and watched Jock pace in circles like a general inspecting his troops. "Do you live here?" "I go where I'm needed," said Jock. "Sometimes I visit the allotments. Sometimes I nap in the greenhouse. Once I got stuck in a wheelbarrow for 3 hours. It was humbling." Billy laughed so hard he snorted jam. Jock paused. "You're all right, kid, bit sticky. But all right." Billy wiped his face with his sleeve. "You want to play?" Jock narrowed his eyes. "Depends. What's the game?" Treasure hunting, said Billy. I've got a spoon. Jock considered this. Is the treasure edible? Sometimes, said Billy. Last week I found a biscuit wrapper and a marble. Close enough, said Jock. I'm in. They shook hands, well, Billy's hand and Jock's wing, and set off across the garden like two explorers on a noble quest. Sulky the cat watched from the windowsill, tail flicking, expression unchanged. Billy pointed to a suspicious mound near the shed. That looks promising. Jock squinted. Could be treasure. Could be compost. Could be both. They crept closer, Billy with his spoon, Jock with his biscuit radar fully engaged. And just as Billy raised his magnifying glass to inspect the mound, Jock froze. Wait, he whispered. I smell shortbread. Billy gasped. Gran's kitchen window. Jock's eyes gleamed. Operation Crumb Snatch begins now. Billy wasn't sure what Operation Crumb Snatch was, but it sounded exciting and possibly illegal. He grinned. Let's go. And with that, the boy and the bird tiptoed toward mischief. Gran's kitchen window was a thing of legend. It was where biscuits cooled, fresh from the oven, lined up like golden treasure on a floral plate. It was also, according to Jock, the most sacred snack site in the known universe. Billy and Jock crouched behind the hydrangeas, peeking through the leaves like two biscuit bandits on a stakeout. There they are, whispered Jock, pointing with one wing. Custard creams. Possibly shortbread. Could be jammy dodgers. I'm getting strong jam signals. Billy squinted. I see crumbs. Crumbs confirm presence, said Jock. We move at dawn. It's already morning. Then we move now. Jock flapped onto the windowsill with surprising grace for someone shaped like a feather duster. Billy tiptoed below, clutching his spoon like a grappling hook. It wasn't, but he liked the idea. Inside, Gran hummed to herself, completely unaware that her baked goods were under surveillance. Operation Crumb Snatch is a go, Jock whispered. You distract. I snatch. Billy hesitated. Is this allowed? I'm a cockerel, said Jock. I do what I cluck. Billy knocked gently on the window. Gran turned, smiled, and waved. Billy waved back, trying to look innocent, which was difficult, because he was wearing a sun hat 3 sizes too big and had jam on his nose. Jock made his move. He leaned forward, beak poised, eyes locked on a biscuit that shimmered in the sunlight like a golden medal. And then, Jock, came a voice like thunder wrapped in a tea towel. Gran stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyebrow raised, apron flapping like a battle flag. Jock froze mid-snatch. Billy froze mid-wave. Even the biscuits looked guilty. Gran marched over, slippers squeaking with authority. Nice try, she said, plucking the biscuit from under Jock's beak. But I know a biscuit bandit when I see one. Jock bowed. Respectfully, madam, I regret nothing. Gran sighed, then smiled. You must be Billy's new friend. Billy nodded. He's very loud. I noticed, said Gran. And cheeky. Jock puffed his chest. I'm also charming. Gran handed them each a biscuit. Next time, she said, just ask. Billy grinned. Jock crunched. Sulky the cat watched from the windowsill, tail flicking, expression unchanged. As they munched their spoils, Billy leaned over. That was amazing. Jock licked a crumb off his beak. I live for drama. Billy laughed. Want to dig for treasure next? Only if it's edible, said Jock. And with that the boy and the bird set off again, 2 silly souls, 1 biscuit richer, and a garden full of mischief waiting to happen. The garden was quiet again, except for the occasional flap of Jock's wings and the distant hum of Gran's radio drifting through the kitchen window. Billy and Jock lay side by side in the grass, legs stretched out, biscuit crumbs scattered across their shirts like medals of honor. Billy's sun hat had slipped sideways, covering one eye. Jock's tail feathers were slightly jam-stained. They looked like two explorers who'd just returned from a dangerous expedition, which, in a way, they had. "That was close," said Billy, licking his fingers. "I thought Gran was going to turn us into soup." "She wouldn't dare," said Jock, flopping onto his back. "I'm far too majestic. Also, I taste like feathers and regret." Billy giggled. "You're the weirdest bird I've ever met." "I prefer legendary," said Jock. "Also, I once won a staring contest with a scarecrow. 3 hours, no blinking." Billy turned to face him. "Do you always talk this much?" "Only when I'm awake," said Jock. "Or hungry. Or bored. Or near biscuits." Billy nodded. "So, always." "Exactly." They lay in silence for a moment, watching a cloud shaped like a sock drift overhead. Billy picked up his magnifying glass and inspected a nearby ladybird. "Do you have a family?" Jock shrugged. "I've got a cousin who lives in a hedge. He thinks he's a pigeon. It's complicated." Billy laughed. "I've got Mum, Dad, Granddad, and Sulky." Jock glanced toward the windowsill. Sulky was still there, still unimpressed, still watching like a furry security guard. "She looks like she's judging us," said Jock. "She always is," said Billy. "She once hissed at a balloon." "Respect," said Jock. "I once challenged a lawn gnome to a duel. He didn't respond, but I think I won." Billy rolled onto his side. "You want to be best friends?" Jock blinked. "Is there a ceremony?" "Not really," said Billy. "You just say it." Jock stood up, flapped his wings, and cleared his throat. "I, Jock the Cockerel, ruler of radishes and biscuits, hereby declare Billy the boy my official best friend." Billy sat up and saluted. "I accept." They shook again, Billy's hand, Jock's wing, and sealed the deal with the last biscuit crumb. Then Billy leaned in, eyes twinkling. "Want to dig for treasure?" Jock tilted his head. "Define treasure." "Could be marbles. Could be worms. Could be a spoon." Jock considered this. "Acceptable risks. Let's dig." Billy grabbed his spoon. Jock flapped dramatically. Sulky sighed and turned away. And just like that, the boy and the bird set off again, not just explorers now, but best friends on a mission. Billy stood at the edge of the garden, spoon in hand, eyes gleaming with excitement. Jock stood beside him, tail feathers fluffed, peering at a suspicious mound of earth near the shed. "It's definitely treasure," said Billy. "It's definitely compost," said Jock. "Could be both," said Billy. "Could be worms," said Jock. "I'm not opposed to worms. They are chewy." Billy knelt down and began to dig. The spoon wasn't exactly efficient, but it made a satisfying squelch every time it hit something squishy. Jock paced like a general inspecting his troops. "We need a map. And a flag. And possibly a trumpet." Billy looked up. "I've got string." "Excellent," said Jock. "We'll use it to tie up the treasure. Or each other. Depends how things go." They dug for 10 whole minutes, which in Billy time was basically forever. So far, they'd uncovered one suspiciously bendy stick, a marble, victory, and a half-eaten apple core that Jock declared a culinary insult. Then Billy hit something hard. "Treasure," he shouted. Jock flapped dramatically. "Stand back. It could be ancient. Or explosive. Or a biscuit tin." Billy scraped away the dirt. Slowly, carefully, he revealed a brick. Just a brick. Jock stared. "That's not treasure." Billy frowned. "It's sort of treasure." "It's sort of disappointing," said Jock, "unless it's a magical brick." Billy tapped it with his spoon. "It's not glowing." "Try shouting at it," said Jock. Billy leaned in. "Hello?" "Nothing." Jock sighed. "We've been robbed." Billy sat back, brushing dirt off his knees. Maybe we're digging in the wrong place. Maybe we're digging in the wrong century, said Jock. This garden is clearly cursed. Just then, Sulky the cat strolled past, tail high, expression smug. She paused beside the brick, sniffed it, and sat down directly on top of it. Billy blinked. Do you think she's guarding it? She's mocking us, said Jock. She's the treasure now. Billy giggled. Should we dig somewhere else? Jock nodded. Yes. Somewhere with fewer bricks and more biscuits. They packed up their spoon, their string, and their dignity, and trudged toward the flower beds. Billy looked over his shoulder. We'll come back for the brick. Jock flapped once. We'll come back with reinforcements. Sulky blinked slowly, unimpressed. As they reached the tulips, Billy spotted something shiny. Look, he cried. A coin. Jock gasped. We're rich. Billy picked it up. It was round, metallic, and slightly sticky. It's a button, he said. Jock nodded solemnly. We're moderately wealthy. Billy laughed so hard he dropped the spoon. And just like that, the treasure hunt continued, not for gold or glory, but for giggles, biscuits, and the occasional magical brick. By the time Billy and Jock trudged back toward the house, they were covered in grass stains, biscuit crumbs, and one suspicious patch of marmalade that neither of them could explain. Billy's spoon dangled from his backpack like a medal. Jock's feathers were slightly askew, and he had a triumphant gleam in his eye, the kind birds get when they've caused just enough trouble to feel proud, but not enough to be banned from the garden. Gran was waiting at the back door, arms folded, apron dusted with flour, and spectacles perched halfway down her nose. Well, she said, you two look like you've been wrestling hedgehogs. Billy grinned. We were treasure hunting. Jock puffed his chest. We found a brick. Gran raised an eyebrow. Was it a special brick? Sulky sat on it, said Billy. Then it's cursed, said Gran, nodding solemnly. Jock stepped forward. We also attempted a biscuit heist. Gran nodded again. I noticed. Billy shuffled his feet. We didn't mean to steal. We just got excited. Jock bowed. I regret nothing. Gran sighed, then smiled. You're lucky I baked extra. She held out a plate, warm, golden biscuits with just the right amount of crumble. Billy's eyes lit up. Jock made a noise that sounded like a gasp and a gobble combined. They sat on the back step, munching quietly, watching the clouds drift by like lazy sheep. Sulky appeared, tail flicking, and settled beside them with a dramatic sigh. She's judging us again, whispered Billy. She's jealous, whispered Jock. She wanted the brick. Gran sat beside them, passing out lemonade in mismatched cups. So, she said, what's next for the adventurers? Billy looked at Jock. Jock looked at Billy. Tomorrow, said Billy, we're building a raft. Out of flower pots, said Jock. And string, said Billy. And possibly jam, said Jock. Gran chuckled. Just don't float it in the bird bath. No promises, said Jock. They clinked lemonade cups like pirates sealing a pact. Billy leaned back against the doorframe, biscuit in hand, sun on his face. You're the best friend I never knew I needed. Jock fluffed his feathers. And you're the biscuit supplier I've always dreamed of. Gran smiled, watching them with that twinkle she always had, the one that said she knew exactly how much mischief was coming, and exactly how much she'd pretend not to notice. As the sun dipped behind the shed, casting long shadows across the garden, Billy and Jock sat side by side, planning tomorrow's chaos, and Sulky, as always, remained unimpressed. The sun was beginning to dip behind the shed, painting the garden in soft gold and sleepy shadows. The air smelled of grass, biscuits, and whatever mysterious potion Grandad was brewing in the greenhouse. Billy and Jock lay side by side on the lawn, arms and wings stretched out, staring up at the sky like two philosophers who'd just finished a biscuit-fueled debate. Billy's sun hat had migrated to his elbow. Jock's tail feathers were sticking out at odd angles, one of them suspiciously glued to a leaf. Today was brilliant, said Billy. Obviously, said Jock. I was involved. Billy rolled onto his side. Do you think we'll always be best friends? Jock blinked. Unless you betray me to the biscuit police. Billy giggled. Is that a real thing? It should be, said Jock. I'd be their most wanted. They lay in silence for a moment, watching a cloud shaped like a teapot drift past. Billy pointed. That one looks like Gran's biscuit tin. Jock nodded. I'd climb it. Billy smiled. What should we do tomorrow? Jock sat up, feathers fluffed. We build a raft. Billy sat up too. Out of what? Flower pots, said Jock. And string. And possibly jam. Billy nodded. Where will we sail it? The bird bath, said Jock. Or the neighbor's pond. Or the kitchen sink if we're desperate. Billy's eyes sparkled. We could be pirates. I'll be Captain Cluck, said Jock. You can be Admiral Biscuit. Billy saluted. Aye aye. Sulky the cat wandered past, paused, and gave them a look that said you're both ridiculous. Jock bowed. Your Majesty. Sulky blinked slowly and continued on her royal patrol. Billy lay back down. Do you think grown-ups ever do silly things? Jock considered this. I saw your dad chasing a sock with a spatula once. Billy laughed. That sounds about right. They watched the sky turn pink and purple, the kind of colors that made everything feel like a storybook. Billy whispered, I'm glad you came to my garden. Jock flopped onto his back. I go where the biscuits are. Billy smiled. And the best friends. Jock didn't reply right away. He just reached out one wing and gave Billy a gentle poke. Don't get mushy, he said. We've got a raft to build. Billy nodded. Tomorrow. Tomorrow, echoed Jock, and as the stars began to twinkle above, the boy and the bird lay in the grass, dreaming of flowerpot ships, biscuit treasure, and a world full of silly, wonderful trouble. The stars were out, twinkling like tiny biscuit crumbs scattered across a velvet sky. Inside the house, everything was quiet. Mum was reading on the sofa, Dad was tinkering with something that used to be a toaster, and Gran was knitting a jumper with one sleeve longer than the other just for fun. Billy was tucked up in bed, duvet pulled to his chin, sun hat hanging from the bedpost like a retired explorer's helmet. His magnifying glass rested on the windowsill, catching moonlight like a sleepy lighthouse. Jock was perched on the end of the bed, feathers fluffed, eyes half closed, looking like a very tired feather duster with delusions of grandeur. Today was ridiculous, Billy whispered. Today was perfect, Jock replied. We committed mild biscuit theft, discovered a cursed brick, and declared war on compost. That's a full day. Billy giggled. Do you think Sulky likes us? Jock blinked. She tolerates us. That's basically love. Billy rolled onto his side. What if tomorrow's even sillier? Then we'll be ready, said Jock. We've got string. We've got spoons. We've got questionable decision-making skills. Billy yawned. And biscuits. Jock nodded solemnly. Always biscuits. Outside, the garden slept, the gnome stood guard, the compost bin dreamed of banana peels, and Sulky patrolled the windowsill like a furry ghost of judgment. Billy closed his eyes. You're staying, right? Jock fluffed his feathers. I go where the adventure is. And right now, it's under your duvet. Billy smiled. You're weird. I'm wonderful, said Jock. They lay in silence for a moment, the kind of silence that only best friends can share, full of giggles waiting to happen and plans waiting to be made. Then Jock leaned in and whispered, Tomorrow, we build a biscuit launcher. Billy's eyes popped open. What? A catapult, said Jock. For custard creams. Maximum velocity. Minimal crumbs. Billy burst out laughing. You're going to get us grounded. I'm going to get us airborne, said Jock. Billy pulled the duvet over his head, still laughing. You're impossible. Jock settled down, tucking his head under one wing. "I'm inevitable," and as the moon climbed higher and the stars blinked sleepily above, the boy and the bird drifted off, dreaming of biscuits, bricks, and the kind of friendship that only comes from shared silliness. Tomorrow would be chaos. But tonight was perfect.